Good morning, everybody. This is Steve Fletcher with a trumpet for my people. Today is August 14th, 2026. I have three different slides I want to share with you today. I want to go over a pandemic timeline from Israel's 70th birthday to the end of the pandemic on May 5th, 2023. Then I want to talk to you about the pandemic and the 1150 days. The pandemic lasted exactly 1150 days. And I want to talk to you about the 7 biblical years from event 201 to the Feast of Trumpets in 2026. Exactly 2,520 days. From event 201 to the Feast of Trumpets, September 11th, 2026. So the first thing I want to go over with everybody is the pandemic timeline, which began on Israel's 70th birthday. Israel turned 70 on May 14th, 2018. And on the very next day, May 15th, 2018, the Clade X pandemic exercise took place. And this was the beginning of the preparation for a worldwide pandemic. Clade X pandemic exercise. This happened the day after Israel's 70th birthday. Then if you go from Clade X to the beginning of the pandemic, it was exactly 666 days from May 15th, 2018 to March 11th, 2020. Now within this time frame was event 201, October 18th of 2019, and we're going to notice here that 75 days before event 201 was Obama's birthday, his 58th birthday on August 4th, 2019. We're going to see later why 75 days before event 201 is significant. I will show you that on the last slide. And then we have the pandemic declaration, which was March 11th, 2020, 1,150 days total to May 5th, 2023. And this was the WHO declaration that the global health emergency was ended, May 5th, 2023. This also happened to be second Passover. We're going to see the significance of this also. Second Passover and the end of the pandemic. Now within this, we had from the pandemic declaration to the first vaccine, it was 278 days to the first vaccine, and then it was 872 days to the end of the pandemic. So 278 is a mirror of 872. Adding 278 and 872, we get the 1,150 days. What is the importance of the pandemic and the 1,150 days? Daniel chapter 8 talks about the 2,300 evenings and mornings. Daniel 8:13 and 14. How long will the desecration be? Unto 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary will be cleansed. The possible interpretation is that 2,300 evenings and mornings could be 1,150 complete days, each day containing one evening and one morning. 2,300 evenings and mornings, 1,150 complete days. So for March 11th, 2020, the sanctuary was defiled, and it took 1,150 days for the sanctuary to be cleansed, which brought us to May 5th, 2023, the end of the pandemic, which was also second Passover. The possible prophetic connection. The pandemic emergency lasted 1,150 days. This may correspond to Daniel 8's 2,300 evenings and mornings if understood as 1,150 complete days. Its ending on second Passover may suggest a theme of cleansing, restoration, and renewed access. Second Passover was created for those who had been defiled by a dead body, or for those who were on a long journey and were not able to celebrate Passover at the normal time. So I believe there is a spiritual and prophetic connection to the fact that the pandemic ended on the day that the Hebrew calendar was celebrating second Passover. Now I want to talk to you about 7 biblical years from event 201 to the Feast of Trumpets 2026. Exactly 2,520 days. Event 201, October 18th of 2019, if you consider that October 18th is 10:18, and you connect this to Luke 10:18, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Lightning is Barak, and heaven, or heights, or the high places, is Bama. Lightning from the heavens could be interpreted as I saw Satan as Barack Obama. From this day, it's 1,260 days to Nisan 10, the triumphal entry date of March 31st, 2023. Now remember, I had said that 75 days before Event 201 was Obama's birthday on August 4th, 2019. Obama's birthday connected by 75 days to Event 201. Now, when you go from Event 201 and add 1,260 days and it brings you to 10 Nisan, that means if you go from 10 Nisan back to Obama's birthday, it's 1,335 days. From Obama's birthday, 1,335 days to Nisan 10, March 31st, 2023. Now, after the midpoint of this timeline, just 35 days later, it brings us to the end of the pandemic. The end of the pandemic could have been on the first Passover, on what would have been April 5th. But it was not on April 5th, it was on May 5th. So there's a connection between 10 Nisan and then the celebration of Passover, but it didn't go to the first celebration of Passover, it went to the second celebration of Passover, the end of the pandemic. Then from the end of the pandemic to the Feast of Trumpets this year, September 11th, 2026, it's 1,225 days. Now, what's interesting about 1,225 days is that 1,225 is the square root is 35. 35 times 35 is 1225. So you have 35 days, and then you have 35 times 35 days until the Feast of Trumpets, September 11th, 2026. So event 201, 7 biblical years from event 201 to the Feast of Trumpets 2026. Within all of this is the connection to the 1150 days, the 2300 evenings and mornings of Daniel chapter 8. And within all of this is the 666 days from Clade X to the pandemic declaration, the 1150 days total of the pandemic timeline, and it brings us to 7 biblical years from event 201 to the Feast of Trumpets 2026. I believe something very important, very powerful, very special could happen on September 11th, 2026. We do not know exactly what that is. The only speculation we can make is that the second coming of Christ, or the rapture of the church and the beginning of the tribulation, would be with the sounding of a trumpet. Just as it says in Matthew chapter 24, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, the coming of Christ, the rapture of the church is connected to the sounding of a trumpet at the last trump. This timeline is very significant. I believe something very important is set to happen on September 11th, 2026. I just wanted to share all of these details with you for your consideration, and I pray you're all blessed. This is Steve Fletcher with the trumpet for my people, the sign of his coming revealed.